Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying in his previous life, he wakes up inside of One Piece with the ultimate bounty hunter system. How is he gonna change One Piece?
Needs to focus her energy on basic training in the Navy. In addition, swordsmanship practice cannot be neglected. The court swordsmanship inherited from Raymond Thorne may seem exquisite, but it can only bully ordinary people. When encountering a truly strong opponent, one will be badly beaten. Only by incorporating your own style and refining it little by little can you unleash its greater power. If there is an opportunity to master other sword styles in the future, they can continue to integrate them. These can only be achieved through hard work day after day. After a quick breakfast, Yelena took her great sword to a secluded corner and began her morning practice. I get up early to run laps and do push-ups to warm up, practice swordsmanship in the morning, and train with the Navy in weighted obstacle courses and cross-country running in the afternoon. In the evening, I continue to hone my swordsmanship. Yelena saw Colonel Lind again on the fourth day after arriving at the naval branch. That noon, she learned from Eve that Colonel Lind had finally woken up from his coma and specifically asked to see her. Yelena felt embarrassed to visit the patient empty-handed, so she packed some apples and bananas from the restaurant and carried them all the way to the inpatient department. "You're here, cough. Cough, cough. Sorry to keep you waiting so long. Come on, let's count and see if we've had enough." Colonel Lind didn't say anything polite. As soon as Yelena entered the ward, he reminded her to look at the briefcase on the table. Yelena handed the fruit to Eve and went to open the box. Hiss. Even though she was mentally prepared, she was still dazzled by what was in the box. The peel bills were neatly stacked, each with a face value of 10,000, and there were dozens of stacks of them. The colonel is really kind. He sent her money as soon as she woke up. Yelena tried hard to keep her face straight, not wanting anyone to see her greedy nature. 1, 2, 3. 29, 30. Each stack is 1 million. 30 stacks is 30 million. Well, and many more. 30 million. Yelena turned her gaze from the box to Colonel Lind, who was reclining on the hospital bed. What does this mean? Raymond Thorne, the fallen swordsman, has a bounty of 18 million berries. Elout Mead, nicknamed Scissors Hand, has a bounty of 12 million berries. Strictly speaking, she and Colonel Lind defeated both pirates together, so according to the previous statement, she should be entitled to 15 million. Lind smiled, but his heart was bleeding. Of course, it's to win you over. In order to raise 30 million berries, all the cash available in the entire branch was pooled together. I can't even afford my favorite cigars anymore. Please accept this. If it weren't for your help a few days ago, my men and I would have been killed by pirates long ago. How could we be here talking to you? The debt of saving our lives cannot be compared to this little bit of money. Since things had been said to this extent, Yelena couldn't refuse and could only reluctantly accept it. Ha ha ha. 30 million berries is no small sum, and even if Yelena pinched her thigh hard, she could hardly suppress the smile on her face. Fearing she might burst into laughter in the hospital room, she had no choice but to suggest leaving. "Colonel, please rest and recover. Make sure you eat the fruit on time. I'm going back to count the money now. No, I'm going back to practice my sword. I'll come see you again when I have time." Yelena slowly walked out of the ward carrying her suitcase and only quickened her pace after her figure disappeared through the door. Eve chuckled softly, "Little money grubber." "No matter how strong she is, she's still just a child," Colonel Lind said, shaking his head helplessly. "You don't need to take care of me personally. When you have time, take Yelena to the city for a stroll and spend more time with her." I really like that child. Eve didn't refuse, but she paused before continuing. However, can we really keep her in the branch? With her strength and potential, even if she joins the Navy, she'll be sent to Marineford for intensive training. Eve shook her head inwardly. There was something she hadn't explicitly told her father. Although they hadn't known each other for long, she had a feeling that the child wasn't someone who would be bound by rules. Father's plans may fall through. Your thinking is wrong. What branch headquarters? They're all part of the Navy, all working for justice. There's no difference. Colonel Lind first gave his daughter a stern reprimand to correct her thinking, then relaxed, a hint of pride appearing on his face. However, going to Marineford is fine too. Don't forget, the strongest active duty Navy originated from our North Blue. Who? Admiral Akinu. Don't be ridiculous, Dad. The strongest Marine is clearly from the East Blue. It's Vice Admiral Garb. Nonsense, Sakazuki is stronger. Don't think that just because she's from the same generation as Admiral Akinu, you can show favoritism. By that logic, I also think Vice Admiral Tsuru is the strongest Marine, and she's also from the North Blue. Yelena had no idea that the father and daughter in the ward were arguing about who could push harder. She happily returned to her room, grabbed her suitcase, and pounced on the bed, rolling around in and out of bed. With money, I'll never have to worry about my weapons getting damaged again. From now on, I can carry 10 swords with me wherever I go, and I'll just throw them away when they get chipped or broken without even glancing at them. After the initial excitement subsided, Yelena quickly calmed down, casually tossed the box under the bed, picked up her sword, and walked out of the room to continue her unfinished training. In this world, money is external, force is fundamental. Time quickly came to the 1st of next month. That morning, after Yelena finished washing up, she didn't rush downstairs as usual. She took a blood-stained wanted poster from the drawer, nervously rubbed her hands together, and summoned the item's super bounty. Don't let it expire. Don't let it expire. Don't let it expire. Chapter 13. Are there bandits here too? As Yelena muttered to herself, a red light appeared on the super bounty and quickly swallowed the blood-stained wanted poster. As she eagerly awaited the light, it gradually dimmed, and a few lines of small writing appeared on the paper. Identification successful. The attribute obtained this time is Allot Mead's agility. Inherit. Note, if Eloquent Mead has been dead for more than 7 days, her attributes will be halved. If a wanted person has been dead for more than 15 days, no attributes will be gained. Yelena had a premonition, so she wasn't surprised by the result. There are limitations to the items. It seems I can't obtain attributes from long-deceased powerhouses. Sai, let Moria handle this uncivilized grave digging. I won't participate. Inherit. Name, Yelena. Age, 14 years old. Strength, 5. Agility, 8. Constitution, 5. Armament, Haki, none. Observation, Haki, none. Conqueror's Haki, beginner, 65%. Skill, court swordsmanship. Devil fruit ability, none. An unexpected bonus. My Conqueror's Haki has increased by 5%. Practical experience has definitely helped hone my spirit. Yelena stared thoughtfully at the basic attributes panel. Agility only increases by 2 points. Adding the half that was deducted, the complete version has 4 points. From this perspective, attribute inheritance is not simply a matter of numerical accumulation. An average person's agility rating is 5, but Allot Mead's speed is significantly faster than that of an average person. Yelena estimates it to be between 8 and 9. If attribute inheritance is a simple numerical addition, In the best-case scenario, you could gain 9 attribute points this time. Tilda, Yelena chuckled lightly. If that's really the case, you can level up to the maximum by grinding monsters in the starting village. So why would you need to go to the Grand Line? Yelena put away her props, got up and went downstairs, wanting to test her current speed. The sun had not yet risen above the sea, and the sky was still somewhat dark, but a number of Navy personnel had already gathered in front of the branch's drill ground to prepare for morning exercises. Upon Yelena's arrival, they consciously separated, leaving her a wide passageway. 7 days later, Yelena had grown accustomed to the awe people held for her and walked onto the track with an unchanged expression. After a quick warm-up, she pushed off with her feet and darted out like a cheetah, covering more than 10 meters in the blink of an eye. A look of satisfaction flashed in Yelena's eyes. That's good. The speed is at least 30% faster than before. In this way, the power of swordsmanship can be increased by a large margin. The Navy personnel snapped out of their astonishment, and someone whispered, "She runs much faster than yesterday." Normally, would she improve that much in just 1 day? His injuries must have healed somewhat. That must be it. No wonder her training intensity wasn't as high as ours on her first day. It must be because her injury was too severe. Yelena's increased speed aroused no suspicion whatsoever. After her attributes improved, she didn't slack off at all. On the contrary, because her physical endurance increased, the intensity of her training also increased. She doesn't have much time. It has been less than 5 years since Luffy set sail, and only 7 years since he defeated Doflamingo. Yelena warned herself that she had to grow to the point where she could completely destroy the Don Quixote family within 7 years. She felt it was more satisfying to take revenge herself, and she didn't want anyone else to do it for her unless absolutely necessary. On her 10th day at the branch, Eve knocked on Yelena's door. "Little Yelena, I heard that a new batch of goods arrived at the clothing street. They're trendy styles, shipped from Noti's Island. Shall we go take a look?" Sorry. I have to go practice my sword later. I'll go shopping with you next time." On the 15th day, Eve stopped Yelena on the playground. A new amusement park just opened in town, and there are lots of people lining up to go play. Shall we go buy some tickets? Okay, let me finish today's training first. Unfortunately, she didn't find a moment to spare until sunset. On the 20th day, Eve found Yelena running with weights on the beach. That barbecue restaurant on the shopping street is really hard to book. I finally managed to get a number. Shall we go try it together? Yelena pointed to the sailors who were forced to train with her dozens of meters away. I can't just leave them like this and go enjoy some delicious food. Next time, Sister Eve, I'll definitely go with you next time. On the 25th day, Eve did not appear. After being rejected time and time again, she, being a person who cared about her pride, simply put the task assigned to her by Colonel Lind out of her mind. This troublesome brat is no longer my time to serve. With no one to bother her, Yelena felt more relaxed and inadvertently broke her previous training record. Great, starting tomorrow, add another 20 kilograms of weight. The next morning, amidst the astonished gazes of the many sailors exercising in the morning, Yelena strapped 2 more sandbags to her body. Colonel Lind's eyes were filled with respect, but when he faced his stunned subordinates, his expression changed instantly. Look at them. These Marines, supposed to uphold justice, aren't even as hardworking as teenagers. How are they going to deal with pirates in the future? Add weight. Add 10 kilograms, 10 kilograms per person. How? Should we add it to 20 kilograms? Yes. The higher-ups could say a few words, but the lower-ranking sailors were the ones who suffered. They entered the darkest period of their lives, training to exhaustion every day, trembling as they savored the pleasure of becoming stronger. That evening, Yelena was eating her meal in the restaurant after finishing her training when several young sailors sat down at the next table, their tired voices coming from their mouths. "Have you heard? Those bandits have robbed another village." When the colonel received the news, he slammed his fist on the table and broke it. He'll probably lead his men into the mountains again. Mountain bandits. Are there bandits on Swallow Island too? Yelena became interested, quickly finished her food, and moved her chair to the next table. "Who were you referring to as the bandits you were talking about?" "Miss Yelena." The group immediately stood up, trembling as they looked at Yelena. His expression showed exhaustion, but even more so fear. Since the other side arrived at the branch, their training intensity has increased day by day, getting infinitely closer to Marineford. But the Navy personnel would rather work themselves to the bone than dare to cause trouble for the culprit. More than a month has passed since the two major pirate crews were wiped out, and Yelena's exploits have become increasingly legendary within the branch. Surviving Marines have vouched for their lives, claiming they personally witnessed her decapitate over a dozen pirates with a single sword strike. Forced into a state of intense competition by such a terrifying figure, the Navy could only secretly curse under their blankets, daring not to complain in front of him, much less daring to provoke him. Seeing that their legs were trembling, Yelena asked with concern, "Was today's training too tiring? You can't even stand up straight. Sit down and talk about it." "Okay, okay." After calming themselves down, the group began to recount information about the bandits. Chapter 14. The True Use of the Fur Tribe. A few months ago, a dozen or so thugs gathered in the central mountains of Swallow Island and, led by a burly man named Amundo, began to rob and plunder. These people are clever. They only rob remote villages or small towns and have never caused trouble in urban areas. The royal family and nobles did not care about the lives of commoners and had no intention of sending troops to quell the rebellion. In the end, the people who had been harmed by the bandits pooled their money and came to the Navy branch to issue a bounty on the bandit leader, hoping to attract powerful bounty hunters to kill him. Logically, the crimes committed by mountain bandits should be the responsibility of the city guards or the sheriff, but Colonel Lind, bursting with a sense of justice, not only issued an arrest warrant, but also personally led a group into the mountains to suppress the bandits. As expected of a naval colonel, Colonel Lind lived up to his naval identity by successfully getting lost in the mountains. After several days of effort, I returned empty-handed. Hearing this, Yelena's interest grew even stronger. It's unclear whether it's because news of the two great pirate crews' demise has spread, but in the past month, very few pirate ships have docked at the major ports of Swallow Island. Even if a pirate crew occasionally appears, it's the kind that's only recently formed, and the captain doesn't even have the qualifications to be featured in the newspaper. If there is no bounty on her head, then Yelena is not her target. This has resulted in her only engaging in basic training during this period, without any opportunities for actual combat, and thus unable to gain attribute points. Yelena returned to her room and took out the wanted posters she had taken from the tavern earlier, which included her next target. The Great Bull, Amundo, bounty 7.5 million berries. Mountain bandits are worth a fight. The number of times the item can be used was refreshed 3 days ago. It's time to go out for a while. The next day arrived. "What? You want to take on a mission to deal with bandits?" Colonel Lind looked surprised. Did he really need this expert to personally deal with a few bandits? He then thought that when they first met, the man in front of him claimed to be a bounty hunter, and several million berries was no small sum, so it was normal for the other party to be tempted. Only, I'm afraid I can't grant your request this time. I've decided to personally lead the team to capture those bandits. A look of suspicion crossed Yelena's face. You're not trying to get revenge for getting lost in the mountains last time, are you? Cough, cough. Who said that? That's not true. I've served in the military for decades. A dignified naval captain. How could I possibly get lost in the mountains? Don't listen to those people's nonsense. Colonel Lin's face flushed red, and he couldn't help but curse inwardly. Which bastard spread rumors about me? Don't let me catch him, or I'll put him through the ringer. Yelena remained silent, only staring at him with a suspicious look. All right, I won't go. You handle those bandits. Colonel Lind didn't want to explain too much about the bandits, fearing he might make things worse, so he could only agree to Yelena's request. After she's wandered around the mountains for half a day and still can't find any trace of the enemy, let's see if she still dares to laugh at herself. I'll have my adjutant inform them how many people they need to bring. Yelena shook her head. We don't need manpower, just enough weapons. Apart from Colonel Lind, the other members of the branch navy are not very capable. Going with them would only be a burden, and we would have to take care of them when there is danger. It would be more convenient for her to act alone. Sigh, okay. Disappointment flashed in Colonel Lind's eyes. He had hoped to use this operation to hunt down the bandits to help them build a deeper bond with the branch members, but unfortunately, they didn't give him the chance at all. Yelena followed her adjutant to the branch's armory, where she carefully selected 5 one-handed swords and 3 pistols before leaving satisfied. She did not intend to bring the 2-handed sword she had seized from Raymond Thorne on this trip. After more than a month of hard training, she can now swing the weapon with ease with her current arm strength, but she is still a little worried about using it in actual combat. In critical moments against an enemy, if the speed of the sword strike is affected, it can be extremely fatal. She plans to wait until her strength attribute increases before using the greatsword as her main weapon. 5 hours later, the village that had been attacked by bandits. The villagers were working together to repair the door when they suddenly heard footsteps behind them. Everyone instinctively shuddered. They put down their tools, turned around cautiously, and breathed a sigh of relief when they realized that the newcomers were not the bandits from yesterday. But the relief didn't feel quite right. One of the villagers rubbed his eyes abruptly, pointing at the plump, white figure not far away, his finger almost blurring out of focus. Bear. There's a bear. Run. The other villagers stood there stunned. When they came to their senses, their faces changed instantly, and they screamed and scattered in all directions. The polar bear blinked its beady eyes, bowed expertly, and said, I'm sorry. Yelena hadn't expected the villagers to be so timid, but now was not the time to dwell on such things. Let's apologize after we catch the bandits. We need to focus on important business. The polar bear entered the village, sniffing around in front of the collapsed houses, and then moving on to another house to continue sniffing. Ahem. The smell is mixed, but there's a foul odor that's been present in many places, unlike the smell of the villagers here. It must have been left by bandits. Well done, Bippo. The polar bear, pleased with the praise, buried its chubby face in its furry chest, its voice muffled. My family doesn't know I'm doing this kind of work, so don't tell anyone when you get back. Yelena patted Bippo's head, her tone slightly coaxing. After you finish this job, you'll have pocket money for the next 2 years. You don't want Luo to work so hard, do you? It was purely coincidental that Yelena and Bippo traveled together. She was worried about how to find the bandits in the vast mountains when she met Bippo fishing by the river not long after she entered the mountains. The simple-minded polar bear dared to say anything. In less than 5 minutes of meeting, he told her everything about Luo working at the hospital and how he went out to play alone. Yelena originally didn't want to get too involved with Luo and the others, but since the people, no, the bear, had already delivered themselves to her doorstep, there was no reason for her to let them go so easily. She spent a whopping 3 million berries to buy Mont Bibo and led the dizzy polar bear into the mountains. Bears have a keen sense of smell, and Bepo, a member of the fur tribe of the genus Ursus, is an outstanding example. His ability to locate people by scent is several orders of magnitude better than that of the military dogs in the naval branch. Before the sun had even set, he discovered the bandits' trail. It smells so good. No, it stinks. It's that guy's smell. A man and a bear hid behind a tree, observing secretly. On the flat ground by the stream, a campfire had been lit, and the roasting meat was sizzling with oil. A dozen or so bandits of varying sizes sat around it, gulping down their drinks. Our boss is truly amazing. He robs a bunch of things, then moves on to another spot. Not only can the city's sheriffs not touch us, but even the Navy can't do anything about it. However, they'll have to find us first. The bandit leader was a burly man over 3 meters tall. His thick fingers grabbed a scalding hot piece of roasted meat, and without even blowing on it, he stuffed it into his mouth, saying as he chewed, "Armando can go wherever he wants, and nobody can catch me." Chapter 15. Do you crave power? Looking at the bandit leader's bulging, taut muscles and arms that were several sizes thicker than her own thighs, no, even her waist, Yelena understood the origin of his nickname. This creature, which looks even stronger than a regular bison, is none other than a giant bull. Sucktilda. What was that sound? Yelena snapped out of her daze and turned around to find Bepo emerging from behind the tree, drooling over the roasting meat in front of the campfire with a silly grin on his face. "It smells so good." "You've been found out, you idiot." Yelena couldn't help but facepalm. "Doesn't Luo usually give you meat? Looking at your fair, chubby and shiny appearance, you don't seem like it." "Who's there? A bear?" "Boss, there's a bear." Armando swallowed the roasted meat in his hand, turned his head to look at the sound of his little brother's voice, and met Bepo's beady eyes. Sucktilda. A large amount of drool dripped from the corner of Armando's mouth. "A white bear, a species I've never eaten before. Minions surround it." Ow. The bandits put down their drinks, picked up their swords and knives, and charged toward Bibo. Unlike the villagers who were terrified by the wild beast, the bandits showed not a trace of fear on their faces. What's a bear? They've eaten more than one tiger since following their boss. Tonight, they're in for a treat. Oh no. We've been spotted, Yelena. We need to. Wait, where did everyone go? Bipo turned to look behind the tree, only to find that the person who was supposed to be hiding there had disappeared without a trace. Could this guy have just abandoned me and run away? They still haven't given us the 3 million berry. The enemy didn't give Bipo much time to think and quickly surrounded him. A look of confusion appeared on the faces of the bandits. Did they just hear a polar bear speaking? He shook his head vigorously. It was just his imagination. It must be because he drank too much today. Seeing his underlings crowding around the delicious food that had been delivered to their door, the bandit leader swaggered closer, swinging his axe. Armando wants roasted bear paws today. Roasted bear paw. It sounds delicious. Bipo couldn't help but swallow. He wanted to reach out and wipe the clear liquid that had dripped onto his chin, but halfway there he suddenly realized something was wrong. Bear paw. Am I not a bear? These bastards want to eat me. Anger ignited in Bipo's eyes. He leaped more than 2 meters from the ground and kicked a bandit hard in the chin with his right foot. Bang! The bandit's teeth exploded in midair, and he was sent flying backward with a scream. The sudden turn of events instantly dispelled the other bandit's drunkenness. Not good. This polar bear knows kung fu. While Armando was still in a daze, Yelena, who was hiding in the treetop, made her move. She drew her one-handed sword and launched a surprise attack from above, the sharp blade reaching the target's head in the blink of an eye. Armando felt a chill run down his spine. He sensed danger and desperately dodged to the side. Puff! The sound of a sharp blade piercing flesh echoed through the forest, but Yelena's tightly furrowed brows did not relax. The sword had missed its mark. Blood gushed from Armando's shoulder, his features contorted and squeezed together by the mass of flesh on his face. Before he could even utter a curse, the dark muzzle of a gun was already pointed at his eyes. Boom! Another spray of blood appeared. Yelena couldn't help but purse her lips. She'd missed again. It turned out that the moment she pulled the trigger, Armando's neck shrank a few centimeters, and the bullet that should have pierced his eye instead hit his forehead. An ordinary person shot in the head with a pistol has almost no chance of survival. But this guy's muscles were so developed that even his forehead had a thick layer of muscle, and the bullet was stuck firmly. What? Armando screamed and swayed, sending the person who was standing on his chest flying. Yelena landed smoothly, her weapon no longer on her right. This guy's tough, even the sword got stuck. You damn bastard. I'm going to chop you into mincemeat. Despite the pain, Armando, with a sword stuck in his shoulder, swung his great axe and charged at Yelena. This blow is so powerful and heavy that if it hits you squarely, you will split open on the spot. Yelena crouched down, drew another one-handed sword from her back, and stabbed at the enemy's ankle. Bang! Yelena easily dodged Armando's heavy blow, and the axe was deeply embedded in the ground. Before he could pull out his weapon, a sharp pain suddenly came from his ankle. Armando immediately lost his balance and fell forward. Yelena twisted and attacked, thrusting her sword with all her might towards his neck. Losing his balance, Armando had no room to dodge. Not only was he hit by the blade, but the force generated by his body falling forward also increased the power of the sword. After, the nearly 1 meter-long blade instantly sank halfway into the ground. Yelena managed to pull away in time to avoid being crushed beneath the enormous creature. Bang! Armando fell, the hilt of his sword slamming heavily onto the hard, rocky ground, deepening the wound. The blood-stained tip of the sword emerged directly from the back of his neck. Yelena rubbed her aching wrist and sighed inwardly. Fortunately, this guy is slow, otherwise he would be really difficult to deal with. In terms of strength alone, he is greater than the 2 pirate captains from before. Worried that the enemy might still be able to move, Yelena laboriously turned the other person's head, picked up her pistol, and fired several more bullets into the eyes to ensure that the other person was completely lifeless before she could finally relax. Beppo knocked out the last bandit and walked towards Yelena. So you didn't run away, after all. My mission is complete now, right? When are you going to pay me? Worried that the guy would disappear again, Beppo wanted to get his hands on the money first. Yelena took out Armando's wanted poster and dabbed a few drops of blood from the corpse onto it. You carry the corpse down the mountain first, and I'll catch up after I've dealt with those bandits. Beppo immediately objected, his chubby face blurring as he said, No way. What if you take the opportunity to escape? This man's head is worth 7.5 million berries. If I don't keep up, you can take him directly to the Navy branch to exchange him for money. I see. Then hurry up and catch up. Beppo dismissed his doubts and walked to Armando's body. Without him even exerting any effort, the mountain-like body was dragged onto his back. This scene made Yelena envious. Racial talent is amazing. The power that she had been desperately pursuing was something that others were born with. Where could she go to reason with them? When Bepo could no longer be seen, Yelena switched to the Super Bounty and posted Amondo's wanted poster on it. Identification successful. The attribute acquired this time is Amondo's power. Inherit. Inherit. Name, Yelena. Age, 14 years old. Strength, 14. Agility, 8. Constitution, 5. Armament Haki, none. Observation Haki, none. Conqueror's Haki, beginner, 70%. Skill, court swordsmanship. Devil fruit ability, none. Yelena's breathing became much heavier instantly, and her strength increased by a full 9 points. It feels like a windfall. Yelena immediately forgot her envy of Bepo and couldn't wait to test her own strength. She picked up Amondo's axe and swung it around on the ground. In less than 2 minutes, a crater more than 5 meters in diameter appeared before her. Who Tilda is this, what it feels like to have power? Yelena, who had transformed into a human excavator, almost couldn't help but shout in the forest. After calming down, she drew her third sword of the day and approached the unconscious bandits. These guys have harmed countless people, and Yelena wasn't so kind as to take them to the naval branch to enjoy free food and lodging. It's better to just send them away. A few minutes later, Yelena looked at the slightly raised mound of earth in front of her and nodded in satisfaction. I'll leave the axe for you to use as tombstones. Take my advice. Don't be a bandit in your next life. It's a dead end. In the mountains and forests, Bepo walked faster and faster, carrying a corpse weighing more than a ton on his back without feeling tired at all. If I send the person to the Navy branch alone to exchange for the bounty, and then pay the 3 million berries in advance, Yelena won't be able to renege on her debt. Hee, I'm so clever. Bepo became more and more excited as he thought about it, his eyes shining unusually brightly. Who's smarter? Of course it's me. Wait. When did you catch up with me? Upon seeing the newcomer, Bepo's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets, and a guilty look flashed across his furry face. From the moment you wanted to go to the branch alone to exchange for the bounty, but none of that matters. Thanks for your hard work today. I'll give you an extra 500,000 berries later. Yelena benefited the most and was in a good mood, so she wasn't so concerned about money. Moreover, without Bepo's help, she would probably still be searching for her target in the vast mountains right now. Really? You're such a kind person. Upon hearing that the boss was offering more money, Bepo's spirits lifted, and he quickened his pace again. The man and the bear soon arrived at the village they had visited before. Yelena returned the valuables she had stolen from the bandits to the villagers and left gracefully amidst their grateful gazes. However, the feeling of freedom only lasted until they entered the city. A dark figure emerged from the alley and blocked their path. Chapter 16. The opponent is not simple. It was the beginning of the month, and the moonlight wasn't very bright, making people's figures somewhat blurry, but Yelena still recognized the person who came. The iconic greatsword and the spotted hat on his head make a very strong impression. No wonder you haven't come home so late at night. You've made some new friends. Aren't you going to introduce me to them? While talking to Bepo, Law's eyes were fixed on the slender, tall figure beside him. Both of them felt a sudden jolt in their hearts. Bepo, oh no. We've been found out about my extra money-making scheme. Yelena, oh no. Our scheme to trick kids into working has been exposed. She quietly kicked Bepo, signaling him not to talk nonsense, But to her surprise, the latter had no understanding with her at all and abandoned the corpse on his back to run to Law's side. I met a kind person today, Yelena. She helped me earn so many peel. We'll soon have enough money to buy a boat. Yelena showed no joy at being praised, only a sigh. You idiot. They sold her off so quickly. Luo Bushen's gaze passed over. His eyes seemed to say, so, you're the one who tricked our Bepo. Yelena spent a fraction of a second considering the difference in strength between herself and her opponent, and then came to an answer in an even shorter time. We can't beat them. We really can't beat them. Before mastering Haki, there is almost no chance of winning against a user of the Opop fruit. Bepo is telling the truth. I'm a good person. We really just went out to hunt bandits. We didn't do anything dangerous. Lacking the strength, Yelena showed good attitude and readily admitted defeat. The guy on the other side is considered to be among the better people in the supernovas, so he probably won't hold it against her, right? Luo's expression gradually changed from cold to speechless. Are you even speaking human language? Hunting down mountain bandits, that's all. His son Bepo is still a child. It just eats a lot, gets fat, has sharp teeth that can bite through steel and broad paws that can break rocks. With just that much strength, how could it possibly deal with? It seems like it could. On the relatively peaceful island of Swallow, Bepo's strength was enough to place him at the top of the biosphere. Ordinary humans or beasts could not even break through his defenses. Luo looked at his partner. Bepo, explain everything that happened today in detail. You can't believe a single word a stranger says. If it weren't for the fact that his companion showed no signs of being coerced and that they got along fairly well, he would have taken action immediately. With Bepo's honest voice in his voice, Law walked up to Ramondo's body and carefully examined the wounds on his body. Looking at those fatal wounds, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. This girl named Yelena was extremely ruthless. She was definitely not someone to be trifled with. That's how it is. If I deliver this thing to the Navy, I'll get a reward of 3.5 million berries. Hee, Luo. I earn more money in a day than you earn in 2 months. Isn't that amazing? Bepo jumped up excitedly at the end. He can also earn money and help his companions. Luo looked at Bepo with a sense of relief, as if his own mischievous child had suddenly grown up, and at the same time, he was somewhat tempted by this kind of industry that allowed him to make quick money. He works hard at the hospital, but only earns a little over 10 million peels a year. If he wants to earn more, he can only work overtime to perform surgeries or take on some private medical jobs. It seems that being a doctor is not as lucrative as being a bounty hunter. With his devil fruit ability, he might be able to save up enough money to order a custom-made pirate ship in less than a year. But the feeling of attraction lasted only a second before Luo ruthlessly cut it off. Bounty hunters are too high profile. The power of the Opop fruit could easily be exposed, and they might attract the attention of the Donquixote family prematurely. He should stick to being a doctor, save up some money for a few years, and then consider going overseas once his skills have improved further. Miss Yelena, Bepo and I are waiting for you outside the Navy branch. We'll leave after we've divided the bounty. After today, please don't have too much contact with Bepo. We are ordinary people who just want to live normal lives and don't want to get too involved with bounty hunters or pirates. After saying that, Luo took the lead and walked forward. Upon hearing his words, Bepo was stunned for a moment. When he came to his senses, he hurriedly picked up the corpse on the ground and followed his companion. Although I don't quite understand, Luo must have his reasons for saying that, so it's best to just listen to him. Yelena followed silently until she stood at the entrance of the naval branch, at which point the tension in her heart finally eased a little. Luo seemed to speak politely, but his tone was full of unquestionable authority, giving her no chance to refuse. Is this the confidence that comes with strength? Yelena, who was initially complacent about her increased power, completely calmed down. What is her strength compared to those exceptionally talented individuals in the world of One Piece? She doesn't even qualify to be an obstacle for them. She kept telling herself that she couldn't relax and had to train even harder. Sooner or later, she will stand at the highest point in the world and become someone that everyone looks up to. I'll take this guy's body to Colonel Lind first. It won't take more than 15 minutes. I'll bring back every single one of the 3.5 million berries. Armed. As Yelena entered the naval branch, Luo frowned. That person's aura has changed. It can't be my imagination. Just now, her aura suddenly intensified. Luo, what are you talking about? By the way, Yelena was so scary just now. For a moment, I almost couldn't breathe. What happened to her? Listening to Bepo's description, Law suddenly had an answer that he could hardly believe. Could it be that this girl named Yelena possesses the same qualifications as that man? The domineering aura of a conqueror. Yes. What I said displeased her, so she used her domineering aura to intimidate me as a warning. Thinking about this, Luo was somewhat relieved that he hadn't harbored any ill will towards Yelena. If a conflict had broken out, it was hard to say who would win or lose. Yelena was unaware that she and Luo were in a state of mutual distrust. She asked the patrolling navy to inform Colonel Lind, while she took advantage of the break to go back to her residence to get the money. The bounty wouldn't be settled quickly, so she planned to take out 3.5 million from her own money and send it to the person as soon as possible to put an end to today's matter. Here, take a look. In an alley not far from the naval branch, Yelena handed a package containing money to Bepo. Upon seeing the money, the polar bear instantly forgot about being frightened earlier, spat on its paw, and planned to count the money one bill at a time in front of Yelena. Luo stopped his silly friend's actions with a dark expression. No need to order any more. See you later, Yelena. Law dragged Bepo, who was grinning foolishly, away. Yelena looked bewildered. What happened? This guy's attitude seems a little different from before. Boom, boom, boom. Colonel Lind had just turned off the room light, and the bed was not yet warm when there was a sudden, urgent knocking at the door. Colonel Lind. Mez. Yelena has brought Big Bull, Amondo's body back to the branch. What? Colonel Lind was so shocked that he accidentally fell off the bed. That person just left home this morning. It's not even midnight yet. The hunt was completed so quickly. So surprised was Colonel Lind that his first words to Yelena revealed his true feelings. You didn't get lost. The central mountain range of Svalo Island is no small hill. It is so vast that if all the Navy members of the branch were scattered there, they might not be able to meet in a whole day. How did this person manage to find bandits in the vast mountains and capture their leader? He wandered around for 3 whole days before he barely managed to get out of the mountains, without even seeing a trace of the bandits. Lost. What respectable swordsman would get lost? I am a proper swordsman. Ahem, I just woke up. I was talking in my sleep, ahem. Colonel Lind's face flushed slightly as he tried to break the awkward silence with a cough. By the way, you still haven't said how you captured the bandit leader. Go into the mountains, find the bandits, kill them. It's that simple. This guy's body is yours. Don't forget to collect the bounty by tomorrow morning. Achoo, Tilda. Yelena rubbed her eyes and couldn't help but yawn. She naturally wouldn't tell Colonel Lind about Bepo, let him speculate as he pleased. She was going back to sleep. The next day arrived quickly. After breakfast, Yelena did not practice her swordsmanship as usual. She went to Colonel Lin's office, took the bounty on the bandits, and then left the branch with all her belongings, heading to the city. Chapter 17. Equipment Upgrade. Dear esteemed guest, these are the gold bars that have been processed according to your requirements. Please inspect them. The gold shop manager carefully carried the box containing the gold bars to Yelena. Yes, thank you for your hard work. Yelena sheathed her sword and left with the box, satisfied. The inspection was unnecessary. She had witnessed the entire reprocessing of the gold bars, so there was no possibility of shoddy workmanship. Only after the VIP guest was out of sight did the jewelry store manager take out a handkerchief to wipe away the layers of cold sweat that had accumulated on his face. The first guest to enter after the door opened in the morning was this girl with a sword. When he saw the other person enter the store with a weapon, his first thought was, "Is this guy here to rob me?" Absolutely not. In recent years, the industry atmosphere has changed. Senior employees are too demanding in their expense reports, which directly blocks the path for junior employees. If the store's gold and silver jewelry were stolen, it would be difficult for him to profit by falsely reporting the loss. If the boss found out, he might lose not only his job, but also his life. Fortunately, the girl dressed as a swordsman offered him a billy first, not the blade in her hand. Customers have no problem with unusual requests, as long as it's a normal transaction involving payment. The manager walked into the inner room with trembling legs. The customer was not old, but he gave off a terrifying aura. It took him and the goldsmith in the shop a great deal of effort to suppress their fear. Moreover, the other party seemed very distrustful of them, drawing their swords countless times in just 1 hour. Who were they trying to scare? Are they the kind of shops that deliberately cheat customers and tamper with the gold processing? How is that possible? When they encounter someone they don't want to mess with, they always adhere to the principle of honesty and trustworthiness. Shortly after leaving the jewelry store, Yelena went to a custom clothing store. I want to order 3 sets of weight-bearing clothing, including vests, arm guards, wrist guards, and leg guards. The shop owner's eyes revealed surprise. In the past, customers who came to the store either bought suits or had formal wear made to order. This was the first time a customer had made such a strange request. However, as long as the other party can afford the price, she has no problem accepting it. Regarding these, the weighted suits, does the customer have any requests? Sturdy and durable, with as many pockets as possible. I want to fill them with more lead. Okay, we'll work overtime to make it for you. If it's convenient for you, you can pick it up tomorrow morning. The boss smiled and nodded. Compared to those customers who had a lot of preconditions and then nitpicked after the clothes were made, this was nothing. Yelena arrived at her final destination, the weapons shop. Recently, the city's security has improved, and the shop is deserted. The owner was so bored that he was fighting with mosquitoes. When he saw a customer come in, he hurriedly greeted him with a big smile. Welcome. Our shop boasts a wide variety of high-quality weapons, making us the perfect partner for powerful individuals seeking murder and robbery. No, I mean, for everyday life and travel. Yelena stepped back with a cold face, successfully avoiding the shop owner's verbal attack. Make 4 identical ones for me, based on its design. With that, Yelena handed the weapon in her hand to the boss. Wow, that's quite a lot. The boss was an expert. After examining the sword carefully for a while, he knew its approximate value and was overjoyed. He doesn't make a sale for half a month, but when he does, he can live off it for half a year. Heaven really favors him. If I'm not mistaken, This sword of yours must have been made by a master craftsman. It must have been quite difficult to forge. If this doesn't work, I'll change it. We can do it. Just leave it to our shop. We guarantee customer satisfaction. The boss almost shouted himself hoarse, clutching the sword tightly to his chest, determined not to let go of this big customer. Don't worry, I will personally supervise the swordsmiths in the shop to forge the 4 swords. It will take about 2 months, which is the shortest time frame, while ensuring the quality of the forging. Yelena nodded. She would stay on Swallow Island for a while longer. 2 months was still an acceptable wait. The price is 3.2 million berries. You can pay half as a deposit first, and the rest after the project is completed. The boss rubbed his hands together excitedly, his eyes filled with longing for Pele. Yelena frowned. So expensive. This price is enough to buy a good quality sharp sword. My weapon doesn't even qualify as a lower grade sharp sword. The shop owner hurriedly explained, famous swords are priceless and unavailable. Take the fine sharp sword, for example. It's said to be worth 1 million berries, but no weapon shop would sell it for that price after acquiring it. While your sword isn't a sharp blade, its materials and forging techniques are top-notch. 800,000 berries is a truly reasonable price. Fearing the other party wouldn't agree to the offer, he continued to raise the stakes, pointing to the tiny nick on the blade, his tone sincere. After you pay the deposit, I can repair this sword for you free of charge. It has accompanied its master through many glorious battles, and I can't bear to see it incomplete. It wasn't that glorious, and it certainly wasn't with me. That's what Yelena thought, but she didn't say it aloud. She quickly estimated in her mind how many peels she had left. He earned 37.5 million berries through bounties over the past few days, gave 3.5 million to Beppo, spent 30 million on gold, and has 4 million berries left. The cost of the load-bearing suit is negligible, and the remaining money is enough to customize weapons. 3 million. If that doesn't work, I'll find another company. Yelena casually negotiated the price, not really intending to leave. There weren't many weapon shops in the city, and she didn't have much time to ask about them all. Upon hearing this, the shop owner nodded in agreement without hesitation. We'll go with the price you suggested. As soon as he said it, he felt a pang of heartache. If it weren't for the recent peace and the difficulty of doing business, why would he have clung to this customized order? Sigh, it's all the fault of those Marines. They've made it so that pirates don't dare to land in Svallow. In the past month or so, he's lost a lot of money in berries. Yelena's heart skipped a beat. She'd lost out, she should have cut more. However, since the price had already been agreed upon, she didn't want to go back on her word. A discount of 200,000 was not bad. If she used that money to treat Luffy to a meal and Zoro to drinks, she could get 2 free henchmen. Order some more lead blocks and pick them up tomorrow morning. Yelena told the shopkeeper the dimensions of the lead blocks. The boss nodded in agreement, saying that these metal products, which did not require meticulous forging, would not take much time to make. The next day, after Yelena received the weighted suit, she began filling it with gold bars and lead blocks. This was a weight-bearing plan she had thought of long ago. Wearing sandbags on your body is too bulky. Replacing them with denser gold and lead not only increases the load, but also makes movement much easier. She doesn't have enough money right now. The gold she bought isn't even enough to fill the front pockets of her weighted vest. Once she earns more Baileys, she'll replace all the lead weights on her body. Gold has a higher density than lead and retains its value better than paper money, making it a worthwhile collectible. Even if they were removed during battle, who would guess that they were filled with gold? Carrying over 100 kilograms of metal on her body, Yelena threw herself back into intensive training. Time flew by, and 2 months later, it was already time to get to the next 2 months. The final payment has been settled. Here is your custom-made weapon. Please keep it safe. Chapter 18, A New Journey. Yelena took the 4 weapons and tried them out. The light and agile sword flowers flashed through the air. The boss's eyes were filled with surprise. Good heavens, he wielded a 2-handed sword as if it were a 1-handed sword, looking relaxed and casual. This swordsman looks young, but his strength is not simple. Thank you, boss. As Yelena stepped out of the store, she glanced at the location of the naval branch in the distance, her eyes filled with complex emotions. Having stayed there for more than 3 months, she was truly reluctant to leave. Recently, few pirate ships have approached the waters near Swallow Island, and even fewer have carried bounties. More than 2 months have passed since the bandit gang was wiped out. During this time, she only captured a pirate captain worth 8 million berries. Apart from inheriting a few points of physical attributes, she gained nothing else. Staying on this island will be very detrimental to improving our strength. Navy branch. Compared to the ordinary Navy personnel who were overjoyed to learn of the departure of the Scroll Demon, the feelings of Captain Lind and his daughter were far from pleasant. Sigh, in the end, we couldn't keep her in the Navy branch. Dr. Luo was the same. She absolutely refused to leave the hospital to work in the branch. Colonel Lind slowly exhaled a smoke ring and slumped weakly onto the sofa. He didn't know if his judgment was good or bad. In the past 10 years, the only 2 outstanding talents he had taken a liking to were not willing to be recruited by the Navy. Aren't you going to see little Yelena off? She's leaving for Notties Island this afternoon on a merchant ship. Eve wanted to treat Yelena to a meal before she left and planned to invite her father along. Notties Island, Colonel Lind straightened up. That's a wealthy place in the North Sea, a place where rich people gather and commerce is thriving. Seeing the worried look on her father's face, Eve was puzzled. Isn't being wealthy a good thing? Colonel Lind sighed. Alas, the prosperity and wealth are just a facade. In reality, gangs are rampant there and pirates are everywhere. The relationship between nobles and underground forces is ambiguous. Some pirate crews even have investors from the royal family who plunder everywhere. The Navy has always been very passive on that island. How is that even possible? The world government actually allows its vassal states to be entangled with pirates. Eve was shocked. HMPH, as long as enough heavenly gold is paid, the higher-ups don't care where the money comes from. Colonel Lind sneered, but his eyes were filled with helplessness. What could he, a colonel in the Beihai branch, do with all this knowledge? The only thing we can do is protect this land and reduce the harm that pirates cause to ordinary people. Let's go have a farewell dinner with Yelena and tell her about the situation on Notties Island. That girl, she just leaves like that, without giving anyone any time to prepare. Yelena was unaware that someone in the branch harbored deep resentment towards her, as she had just come out of the music store. Both her parents were musicians, and Yelena was exposed to music from a young age, so she also learned to play several instruments. In order to be able to sail freely on the seas in the future without attracting too much attention, she created a persona for herself. A young musician who wanders from place to place. There was no way around it. Bounty hunters become famous too quickly, and she didn't want to end up like Zorro, being recognized wherever she went. In previous operations, the enemies she targeted were either killed or imprisoned in the branch prison. There wasn't a single pirate outside the sea who knew her true identity. As for the Navy, at her request, Colonel Lind has ordered a complete blockade of all information about her. To this day, the island's inhabitants still believe that the calm in the surrounding waters is entirely due to the Navy. Yelena was happy that they misunderstood, as long as she got the actual benefits. At noon, Yelena entered the restaurant where they had agreed to meet. Pushing open the door to the private room, she found Eve and Colonel Lind, father and daughter, already waiting for her inside. "It's my treat today. You guys order. I'll tidy up my things first." Yelena untied the violin case, opened the back compartment, and placed all 5 two-handed swords, blades, and sheaths inside. This is an oversized violin case that she specially ordered, with the reason being to hold more instruments. Under the pressure of money, the music store owner made a decision that went against his ancestors' wishes and helped her modify it. Eve's eyes twitched at the sight. "I know you're a swordsman, but you don't need to carry so many swords, do you?" During the meal, Colonel Lind recounted all the information he knew about the island of Notties, and finally, he pulled a newspaper from his pocket. "Keep an eye on this Iron Axe pirates. They've been causing quite a stir lately, robbing multiple merchant ships and even burning down a port. Captain Iron Axe Vigo's bounty has soared to 32 million berries. According to intelligence, they appeared in the waters near Nautilus Island, clashed with a local pirate crew, and escaped unscathed. They're a group of not-so-friendly thugs." Enrage blazed in Colonel Lind's eyes. It wasn't just civilians and merchants who had died tragically at the hands of Iron Axe Vigo. There were also naval personnel. "One of my colleagues led a warship in pursuit of the Iron Axe pirates, only to perish at sea. If you're unlucky enough to encounter them, please be extremely careful." Iron Axe. Yelena's eyelids twitched upon hearing this unpretentious nickname. These days, people with simple nicknames are not to be trifled with. Iron fists and steel bones, red hair and silver axe, aren't they all formidable and powerful figures? Hopefully, that guy's potential isn't that exaggerated. After lunch, the father and daughter watched Yelena walk toward the port. "Dad, will we ever see her again?" Eve asked, tears welling in her eyes. Even though Yelena repeatedly declined her invitations to go shopping, the two had been friends for several months, and she was heartbroken when she suddenly left. "Who knows? The ocean is vast." Colonel Lind returned to the branch with a stern face and immediately summoned all his subordinates. Amidst the uneasy glances of the Navy soldiers, he uttered words of the devil. "Our enemy is too powerful. We cannot uphold justice with our current strength. From today onward, the training intensity for all naval personnel in this branch, including myself, will be doubled." Did you hear me clearly? Yes. The Navy soldiers cried out with long faces, all hope of survival gone. "Mez. Yelena, why don't you come back? The colonel has become even stricter since you left." Yelena was unaware that people were already missing her soon after they parted ways, and she had already boarded a merchant ship bound for Notties Island with her ticket. She was pulling a suitcase, carrying a cello case on her back, and had a brand new pistol at her waist, her face showing longing for a new journey. From any perspective, she was just an ordinary music girl. Some passengers saw that Yelena was alone and had a beautiful appearance, so they wanted to go up and chat with her. "Madam, I'm sorry, I've mistaken you for someone else." But upon noticing the pistol at her waist, he immediately stopped and dared not approach any closer. Yelena nodded in satisfaction, took the other pistol out of her pocket, and tucked it into her waistband. She may keep a low profile, but she doesn't want to be harassed, and a necessary deterrent is essential. For the first 3 days at sea, apart from the wind and waves of the ocean itself, the merchant ship moved steadily forward without encountering any other dangers. The caravan members prayed silently that they would reach safe waters in a day, and that nothing unexpected would happen during that time. That night, a shell roused the captain from his reverie. Chapter 19, Musketeers. Bang! The shell struck the merchant ship's starboard side, and with a blinding flash of light, the ship began to shake violently, forcing it to reduce its speed. A piercing alarm sounded in the cabin, and the lookout's trembling voice echoed throughout the ship through the loudspeaker. Pirates, 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 pirates are attacking. Yelena, who was in a single cabin, woke up the moment the cannons fired. Upon hearing the announcement, she immediately opened her suitcase and changed into the clothes she had prepared to disguise her identity. She put on a black hooded cape and a matching mask and changed into a pair of shoes that were easy to move in. She took her weapon, opened the door, and cautiously peeked out. She found the corridor empty. All the passengers were hiding inside their rooms, too afraid to come out. Her figure swiftly swept across the corridor, and soon she appeared at the stern of the ship, her entire being blending into the darkness, her eyes under the hood constantly scanning the approaching pirate ship. Bang! The second cannon shot blasted a large hole in the merchant ship's railing. When they were only 20 meters away from the merchant ship, dozens of grappling hooks flew from the pirate ship and tied the two ships together tightly, completely cutting off the merchant ship's chance of escape. The piercing sound traveled across the sea and reached everyone's ears clearly. This is a warning. Before the third shell lands, everyone get onto the deck, or I'll blast a hole in your heads one by one. Faced with the pirates' blatant threat, none of the passengers on the merchant ship dared to ignore it, and people began to leave their cabins one after another. A few minutes later, looking at the crowded deck, the pirate captain nodded in satisfaction. Very good. It seems he has a lot of intimidation power. I don't like killing people. The passengers' eyes lit up. Could it be that they had encountered a good pirate who only wanted money and wouldn't kill them? Leave the women and treasures behind. Men, strip naked and jump into the sea. Take nothing with you. All your money and clothes are mine. The pirate's shrill laughter instantly shattered everyone's expectations. Lady Luck had indeed not smiled upon them. A middle-aged man with a large beard squeezed out of the crowd, looking much calmer than the others who were trembling. Respected pirate lord, I am the captain of this ship. Our merchant fleet pays a large sum of money to the White Bear pirates every year in order to be allowed to conduct commercial trade in this area. Please, for Captain Polar Bear's sake, spare our lives. We'll hand over half of the cargo on board. Boom! Ah! The bearded man clutched his leg and collapsed onto the deck. The pirate jumped onto the bow of the ship, his figure clearly illuminated by the lights. Call! He opened his mouth and blew away the heat from the muzzle of the gun, his voice still sharp and piercing. What polar bear? What black bear? Listen up. I am Luke Carter, the musketeer, captain of the cowboy pirates. My superb marksmanship doesn't need to give anyone face. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The bearded man's face grew even paler. They had been stopped by pirates before, but each time they gave their names and paid a small fee to get through safely. But now the worst situation has occurred. These hotheads have probably only been at sea for a short time and have never even heard of the White Bear pirates' reputation. Men. These guys dare to use other pirates to intimidate their captain. What do you say we do? Luke Carter held a pistol in each hand, turned his head to look behind him, and his eyes gleamed with a bloodthirsty light. Kill them. Loot them all, the pirates shouted, raising their weapons. Well said. Men charge. Treasure, women, whatever it is, whoever gets it first keeps it. Ow. On the deck, the tall pirate standing at the back looked ahead with excitement, preparing to charge forward with his companions, when suddenly a strong force came from behind him. He had no power to resist and was dragged directly into the cabin. Swish! Just as the tall pirate was about to shout, a gleaming blade was pressed against his neck, silencing his unspoken words. Along with the blade came another icy sensation. He glanced at his shoulder and saw that the black robe draped over it was constantly soaking his clothes with seawater. The pirates had a guess in their minds. The guy behind them must have swum ashore from the sea. "Is your captain wanted, and how much is the bounty?" A deep, hoarse voice came, and the blade pressed against his neck drew even closer, the pain instantly interrupting his thoughts. "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I'll tell you everything. The captain's bounty is 1,200 million berries. Is there a bounty on your head?" "Yes, yes, yes. Every one of us crew members has one. Mine's in my jacket pocket. You wait, I'll get it for you right away. Go to hell." The tall pirate paused. His hand, which had been pretending to reach into his pocket, stopped in front of his abdomen, while the gun in his other hand fell onto the deck. He fell forward, his eyes wide open. Yelena sheathed her sword and casually flicked off the blood. "This is the first time someone has said they would die for me. I feel so embarrassed. I hope I'll never say something so misunderstanding-inducing again in my next life." She pulled the bounty poster from the pirate's pocket and left the cabin without looking back. "Let's fight these pirates. Kill them." Negotiations broke down, and seeing that the pirates had no intention of letting them go, Captain Bigbeard abandoned his illusions and led the caravan in resistance. The sounds of gunfire from the caravan, shouts from the pirates, and pleas for mercy from the passengers mingled together, providing excellent cover for Yelena's actions. Hidden behind the pirates, she moved stealthily toward her target. Boom! After sustaining a leg injury, Captain Bigbeard was shot in the arm again. Before he could even scream, he was kicked in the chest again, sending him flying backward and crashing hard into the mast. Luke Carter slowly approached the bearded captain, blowing on the smoking muzzle of his gun as he walked. "Should I spare your life? Go tell that polar bear that I will one day dominate the North Sea, and he'll have to wash his neck clean and wait. You dare to be an enemy of Captain White Bear." The bearded captain was disdainful, but dared not show it on his face. Upon hearing that he had a chance to live, he immediately knelt down and begged for mercy, ignoring the pain. "Thank you so much for sparing my life, sir. I promise to deliver your message." His eyes were full of hope. Putting aside any messages, he just wanted to get out of there alive. Luke Carter slowly lowered his gun, and as the light in the bearded captain's eyes grew brighter, he suddenly pointed the gun at the latter again. "I was just kidding, Heliher." The mocking laughter concealed an undisguised cruelty. "You." Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Looking at the weak man before him, whose expression rapidly shifted from hope to despair, Luke Carter laughed even louder. Just as he was tired of laughing and was about to pull the trigger to send the other person on his way, a gust of wind suddenly came from behind. Chapter 20. What was it all about? Danger descended from behind, and Luke Carter's expression changed drastically. At this moment, he no longer cared about attacking others and hurriedly turned his body to the side. The response was pretty good. Yelena's eyes showed admiration, and as her target dodged, she also changed her attack. With a flick of the wrist, the greatsword changed from a thrust to a slash. Luke Carter was halfway through his dodge when he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his back, his strength rapidly draining away, and his body fell forward uncontrollably. Before his body could even touch the deck, a sharp pain shot through his neck again. His vision went black, and his eyes quickly rolled back to reveal a familiar, mutilated body. Strange, where's his head? Bang! Captain Bigbeard was in despair, his face contorted in pain as he closed his eyes and awaited death. but he waited for several seconds without hearing a gunshot. He wanted to beg the other party to stop torturing him and give him a quick end, but when he opened his eyes, there was no sign of the pirate captain in front of him. Only one person, wearing a cloak, was cleaning the blood off the sword. The pain in the bearded man's eyes gradually turned into confusion. What happened? Yelena had no intention of explaining herself to him. She put away the bounty order and turned to rush into another battlefield. The pirates, unaware that their captain was dead, were excitedly enjoying the thrill of bullying the weak. The expressions on these people's faces as they struggled were so hilarious that it was impossible not to burst out laughing. A pirate was laughing when a sharp pain shot through his heart. He looked down and only managed to catch a glimpse of a sharp blade before losing consciousness. Not good. Some pirates noticed this and exclaimed in surprise, which immediately attracted the attention of more of their companions. Before they could even aim their guns, Yelena darted into the crowd. Each sword strike precisely took a life, and screams of agony echoed continuously. The pirates were as excited as they were a moment ago, and now they are filled with terror. Seeing his comrades die one by one before his eyes, one of them finally broke down, dropped his weapon, and turned to run away. Some people managed to get back to the pirate ship using the grappling hooks, while many others lost their footing and fell into the sea through the gaps between the ropes. But those who passed successfully didn't even have time to celebrate. Leading their prey into a desperate situation, the grappling hook connecting the two ships has now become an obstacle. Without cutting these grappling hooks, pirate ships simply cannot get away from merchant ships. Sever them quickly. Oh no. That guy's coming. Ah. The screams gradually faded away, and the sea returned to the tranquility unique to the night. Yelena returned to the merchant ship and had just stood on the deck when she heard a series of footsteps. Looking up, she saw passengers and caravan members staring at her in fear as they pushed their way to the back, and not a single person dared to approach her. Yelena curled her lip. Am I that scary? Fortunately, not everyone was terrified. The bearded captain was helped by his men to Yelena's side. Ahem. Sir, on behalf of everyone on board, I express my gratitude to you. You saved all our lives. You are welcome to take any cargo or treasure you wish to keep. Some passengers became dissatisfied when they saw that the captain was taking it upon himself to hand over their belongings. If we pay for the pirates even though they're alive, and we still pay for the pirates even though they're dead, then the pirates died for nothing. He was about to retort when his gaze swept over the still bleeding corpse on the deck, and he felt a chill run down his spine. The words stuck in his throat. He cursed inwardly, Idiot, I almost lost my mind. That guy over there is more terrifying than a pirate. He kills without blinking an eye. Just because someone's saved you doesn't mean they're a good person. This is also what most passengers think. Once the captain spoke, no one present objected. Their lives were the most important thing. Sacrificing a little money was insignificant. Under the tense gazes of everyone, Yelena finally reacted. I'm a bounty hunter, not a pirate. I have no interest in robbing ordinary people. The deep, hoarse voice reached everyone's ears, immediately making their hearts tighten. Looking at the person opposite them, dressed in a black hooded cloak and holding a blood-red longsword, the group felt no relief at having saved their valuables. Instead, they felt as if they were being watched by the grim Reaper. The bearded man's body was also trembling a little, but he had been sailing the seas for a long time and had experienced many dangerous situations, so he was the first to recover. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We will deliver every last bit of the pirates' treasure to you. If you find dealing with the pirate ship and their weapons too troublesome, I can help you resell them after we arrive at Noti's Island. What do you think? Can? Yelena nodded in agreement, thinking to herself that this guy was pretty savvy. This guy is no ordinary person either. He has connections with pirate groups near Noti's Island and has channels for selling stolen goods. He doesn't seem like a legitimate businessman at all. Those who venture out to sea each have their own way of surviving. While receiving treatment from the ship's doctor, Big Beard ordered his men to clean up the corpses and bloodstains on both ships, and instructed those who went to the pirate ship to search for treasure to absolutely not keep any for themselves. After finishing his work, he turned to look for the man in black, only to be told by his subordinates that the man had left sometime earlier. The ship hasn't even docked yet. Where can people run to? The bearded man gradually came to a conclusion. The bounty hunter had likely boarded the merchant ship when they left Svala, and perhaps was hiding among the passengers. However, he did not make a fuss or send anyone to investigate. The other party was ruthless, and if his little tricks were discovered, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yelena quietly returned to her room without disturbing anyone. She took off her cloak, which was no longer dripping wet, and gently scratched her throat a few times. Disguising her voice as something else is quite difficult for her. She always feels an itch in her throat when she speaks, so it seems she needs to get used to it for a while longer. Yelena took out the blood-stained wanted poster and pressed it onto the Super Bounty sign. At the same time, silently repeat to yourself, don't use gun skills. Luke Carter is known as the Musketeer because of his exceptional marksmanship, a skill that others might envy, but it's useless against Yelena. During her previous training at the Naval Branch, she specifically took time to practice her marksmanship, and hitting the enemy's vitals within 2 meters was no problem for her. This is enough for a swordsman to use in battle. Identification successful. The attribute obtained this time is Luke Carter's agility. Inherit. Inherit. Name, Yelena. Age, 14 years old. Strength, 4. Agility, 10, 8 + 1 + 1. Constitution, 8, 5 + 1 + 2. Armament Haki, none. Observation Haki, none. Conqueror's Haki, beginner 90%. Skill, court swordsmanship. Devil fruit ability, none. The average attribute of a normal adult is 5 in all 3 aspects. Tusk. Yelena raised an eyebrow, her tone somewhat disappointed. To only gain a little agility, this pirate is far too weak. Relying solely on self-training results in a very slow improvement in basic attributes. After several months of hard training, one can only improve a little in agility and physique. The other 2 stat points were acquired after defeating the pirates last time. If I encounter a pirate with the same strength as today again, I might not be able to gain any attributes. It seems I need to target pirates with higher bounties. In the future, if you encounter small fry, just catch them and exchange them for bounty. Don't waste the precious uses of the item. Chapter 21, Debt. Compared to the perilous night, the second half of the merchant ship's voyage was incredibly smooth, and they successfully arrived at the port of Notis. Big Beard arranged for people to unload the cargo. Passengers who had packed their luggage in advance hurriedly squeezed off the ship. Yelena mingled among them and followed the crowd into the town. She went to the hotel closest to the dock, booked a room, put all her luggage in, changed into a cloak, and left through the window. When she returned to the ship, the sailors were still unloading cargo. This time, she didn't hide herself and slowly walked up to the bearded man. Sir, have you rested well? I'll have someone accompany you to the Naval Branch first. As for the money from selling the stolen goods. Cough, cough, the money from selling the ship and weapons will have to wait. We'll meet here again tomorrow morning, and I'll personally deliver the money then." The bearded man was very respectful, and he didn't even let Yelena participate in the hard work of moving the corpse, but directly arranged for his subordinates to do it for her. What could Yelena say? She could only refuse outright. What kind of bounty hunter needs outsiders to help carry a corpse when going to the Navy branch to exchange bounties? Why be a bounty hunter if you're afraid of getting dirty? Naval branch on Notties Island. Several Navy officers on duty were chatting idly at the entrance when they turned around and noticed someone approaching. They quickly straightened up and adjusted their rifles. "What are you doing here? Do you know where you are?" "Naval branch. Unauthorized personnel are not permitted to approach." Yelena's brows furrowed involuntarily. Compared to Colonel Lin's men, these guys in front of her didn't look like naval soldiers at all. However, she wasn't an inspector sent down from headquarters, so she had no interest in helping them enforce military discipline. Yelena untied the sack on her back, letting them see what was inside. "Musketeer Luke Carter, his head is worth 12 million berries." As he spoke, he handed over a brand new bounty poster. Looking at the mangled pirate corpse, a strange glint flashed in the eyes of the Marine on guard duty. Someone actually dared to come here to exchange bounties. "You wait here, I'll go inform the officer." The Navy officer took the bounty order and ran into the branch office. "Colonel Varacher, a bounty hunter, has arrived at the branch office." Inside the luxurious and spacious office, a desk made of fine wood was covered with Peel bills. A bald man wearing a justice coat was counting the money one bill at a time. Hearing the shouts outside, a hint of impatience appeared on his gloomy face. "What are you shouting for?" He opened the drawer and swept all the money on the table into it with a sweeping motion. "Get in here." "Yes." "You just said there are bounty hunters." "Yes." "That person came with a pirate's corpse. This is the bounty poster. We've carefully compared it, and it's the same person." "Let me see." "Oh, I've never seen this pirate before." "Go tell that bounty hunter that this pirate isn't from Nautilus Island and that he should go somewhere else to exchange his money." Colonel Varacher narrowed his eyes, leaned back in his chair, and naturally propped his legs up on the table, trying to squeeze money out of him. "Go dream about it. That might be more likely." The Navy officer who came to report hesitated, but this is against the rules. Colonel Varacher grabbed an ashtray from the table and smashed it at the bowing Navy officer. Bang! "You dare disobey me. Your subordinate wouldn't dare. But it's morning now, and there are many pedestrians on the road. If we just drive them away like this, it will be bad for your reputation." The Navy man shook his head frantically, letting the blood drip down. Colonel Varacher sneered inwardly. "Reputation. What good is reputation?" He got up, walked to the mirror, carefully straightened his coat, put on his military cap, making sure it was perfectly straight before leaving the office. "Go and meet him." The Navy officer, who had a head injury, dared not follow his superior and left the office building, heading straight for his dormitory. When his comrades saw him walking with his head in his hands, they glanced at the direction he had come from and immediately guessed the reason. However, they didn't say anything, just sighed and continued with their own business. It's as if they've become accustomed to this situation. Yelena stood outside the gate for a full 20 minutes before there was finally movement inside the branch. Dozens of neatly dressed sailors jogged into the street and lined up in 2 rows to block the crowd. As Yelena grew increasingly impatient, a thin sailor slowly approached her. Yelena glanced at the other person's navy uniform and justice coat, which were completely mismatched with their figure, and a hint of disdain flashed in her eyes. The officer's uniform on this guy looks like it was stolen. Colonel Varacher scrutinized the bounty hunter opposite him, but after a long time, he couldn't even determine the hunter's gender, let alone his true appearance. They're wrapped up way too tightly. Thank you so much for helping us capture this vicious pirate. Without your righteous intervention, who knows how many innocent civilians would have suffered? Is the money ready? Upon hearing these blunt words, Colonel Varacher's fake smile faltered for a moment, but his thick skin allowed him to quickly adjust his expression and let out a sigh. Sigh, you don't understand the branch's situation. We just received our military pay recently, and the repairs to the warship the day before yesterday also cost a lot of billy. The branch doesn't have much cash left. Seeing the other person's expression change from smiling to embarrassed, Yelena suddenly felt a toothache. Could this old man be trying to play the righteous card and make her do the work for free? Dream. No matter how realistic your performance is, it won't work. Why don't you wait on the island for a while? 7 days, no more than half a month, and I will definitely gather the reward money and personally deliver it to your residence. Yelena's toothache has stopped, but it has started to itch. Good grief, they've gone from working for free to having their wages withheld. Seeing that she didn't nod, a cry suddenly erupted from the Navy. Ware! The branch is on the verge of bankruptcy, yet Colonel Varacher didn't refuse the bounty hunter's outrageous request. What a noble spirit! This is justice. Colonel, your brilliance is dazzling. Ware! Yelena barely suppressed the urge to draw her sword. These two were definitely shills for the skinny colonel. Their howling was so fake. Not all sailors are so shameless. Some quietly moved away, wanting to get further away from their two idiotic comrades. Why is the branch on the verge of bankruptcy? Outsiders may not know, but don't you know? Half a month, right? I'll wait. Yelena didn't want to be made a fool of here, so she dropped the sack containing the pirates and turned to leave. She won't leave Noti's island anytime soon, and the naval branch won't just disappear into thin air, so what is she afraid of? You still haven't told me where you live, Colonel Varacher called out, raising his hand. I will show up then. After saying this, Yelena quickened her pace and gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. Having failed in his attempt to gather information from the other party, Colonel Varacher sneered and turned to walk into the branch. Back in his office, he opened a cabinet in the corner, took out a Den Mushy snail phone, and pressed the dial button without hesitation. Hello, this is Varacher. Didn't we just contact each other a few days ago? What, Colonel, do you want us to do something for you again? A gruff voice came from the Den Mushy. Chapter 22, Go and Kill Him. A skilled bounty hunter has arrived on the island, dressed as. Send someone to kill him as soon as possible. The person on the other end of the Den Mushy listened to Colonel Varacher for a long time without much reaction, until they heard his last sentence, and then they laughed. Did you hear me right? You're ordering me around. Colonel Varacher's face still held an urgent expression of urging, but he was choked by the contemptuous laughter and choked on his words. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but in the end he only uttered a dry sentence. We have a cooperative relationship. Just kidding. I'll send someone to take care of that hunter. Congratulations, Colonel, on making another fortune. Don't forget to treat me to a drink once the Navy headquarters allocates funds. Clag. The Den Mushy closed its eyes, and the other end cut off the connection. Damn pirates! Colonel Varacher returned to his desk with a gloomy expression. However, the pirate reminded him that he could take this opportunity to apply for another round of military funding from headquarters. Once the bounty hunter was dead, the money would naturally go into his pocket. In a secluded bay in the northwest of Notties, a huge three-track sailing ship is moored. Pirate flags fluttered in the wind atop the deck, and pirates gathered in twos and threes on the deck, some drinking and others sunbathing. A creaking sound came from the ship, and the pirates turned to look. A middle-aged man with a strong, ox-like